Good morning, everybody. Let's turn our attention now to some conventions of writing, specifically evidence use and context. So this is a two-in-one video. Number one, you need to give us context when using any other source. Even though you know I've read it and you've all read a source, you do not know who's reading your essay. So you can never say something like, Johnny Barnes says. We do not know who Johnny Barnes is. If I pulled one of the workers aside here and said, you know, Twenge argued something, da 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 da, they're not going to have a clue as to what I'm talking about. So you need to understand that when someone is being introduced, you need to introduce them properly. Once you've done that, you can simply use that person's last name. So that is a huge problem that we need to fix. The other thing I want to show you is a next level of using evidence in your essays. Most of you are doing a good job quoting. We do have some issues with in-text citations, but for the most part, we know how to use evidence in the standard way. So I'm going to show you 4 types of evidence use with the same quote here. Okay, the first one is pretty, well, this is just a quote. This is a quote from Twenge's article on page 61. Notice I'm using the author's last name and the page number if those exist. Okay, if not, I just need the author's last name. So here is a quote. And if you did this in your essay, I would write quote dump or QD. You never want to just slap a quote down. Again, we don't have any context to this at all. It illustrates that you don't know what you're saying and you need other people's words to do so. Okay, so minimally, you need a tag. Okay, so this is the okay way to use evidence. In her text, the author says, at least we know there's an author and we know it's from a text. Okay, now obviously we're all smart enough to realize that you could do much better than that. But we have in the text, the author says, comma, quote, quotes go at the end, author's last name in parentheses with a period at the end. Okay, so a little bit better way is to give the context here. This tag is more complete. In her study of adolescence and phone use, Jean M. Twenge says, da 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 da, and I have my quote at the end. I do not need her last name here because I named her here, but that does not mean I get away with not citing her at all. I still need this. Okay. One thing I'd like you to encourage you to do in third quarter here is to embed your evidence. And I think you'll see, in my mind, this is actually easier. It avoids you having really long quotes. Some of you have quotes that are way too long. But I'm literally taking her quote and embedding it and putting it into my sentence. So check this out. In her study of adolescence and phone use, Jean M. Twenge makes the argument that phones are detrimental to teenagers, that they're having, quote, profound effects on their lives, and that these effects are leading kids to be seriously unhappy. I took a chunk of her words, okay, and I took a chunk of her words here. What I'm doing is taking the best parts of the quote and putting it into my own sentence. Obviously, I still need to give her credit because this is where the idea is coming from, but now my sentence is much more fluid. I don't need to type some big, long, clunky quote, and now I'm ready to move on to my analysis. Okay, so again, to review everything I just said, you must give us context to your sources. Many of us are not doing that. When you quote, you can do a tag and the quote, but I would encourage you as you become better writers and older to start thinking about embedding quotes into your writing. And we will practice this together. But again, this video should be a good review reminder. You can come back to it to see how to quote correctly. Okay, thank you.